The Rise and Fall of Adolf Hitler, How a Madman Hijacked a Nation. On April 20th, 1889, in the sleepy Austrian town of Braunau am Inn, a baby named Adolf Hitler was born. The world didn't know it yet, but this little bundle of rage would grow up to plunge it into chaos. His father, Alois Hitler, was a stern customs official with a mustache that screamed, "I yell at clouds." Alois believed in discipline, by which I mean he treated young Adolf like a military recruit. Meanwhile, Adolf's mother, Clara, was the emotional anchor of his life. He adored her, she adored him, and Alois adored yelling. Hitler's school life? Let's just say he wasn't exactly valedictorian material. He struggled academically, clashed with authority, and eventually dropped out at age 16. His report cards probably read, "Talks too much, draws swastikas in margins, needs therapy." But young Adolf had a dream. He wanted to be an artist. So he packed his sketchbook and headed to Vienna, the city of dreams and rejection letters. Twice he applied to the Academy of Fine Arts Vienna. Twice he was rejected. The admissions board reportedly said his work lacked talent. Ouch, that stung. And instead of saying, "Maybe I'll try graphic design," Hitler spiraled. He lived in hostels, sold postcards, and stewed in bitterness. Vienna was also where he encountered the ideas of Karl Lueger, the city's anti-Semitic mayor, who blamed Jews for everything from inflation to bad weather. Hitler soaked it all up like a sponge dipped in bile. Hitler's Vienna years were a cocktail of poverty, resentment, and radicalization. He blamed Jews for his failures, his hunger, and his rejection from art school. It was easier than blaming his own lack of skill. He became obsessed with nationalism, racial purity, and the idea that Germany was destined for greatness, if only it could rid itself of undesirable elements. Spoiler alert, this ideology would later become the backbone of the Nazi movement. When World War I broke out, Hitler enlisted in the German army. Finally, he found something he was good at: following orders and glaring dramatically. He served as a messenger, was wounded twice, and received the Iron Cross for bravery. But when Germany lost the war in 1918, Hitler was devastated. He believed the country had been stabbed in the back by traitors, especially Jews and communists. This conspiracy theory became his personal gospel. Post-war Germany was a mess: hyperinflation, political chaos, and people using wheelbarrows to carry cash. Hitler joined the National Socialist German Workers' Party, Nazi Party, and quickly rose through the ranks thanks to his fiery speeches and theatrical hand gestures. In 1923, he tried to overthrow the government in the beer hall putsch. It failed spectacularly. He was arrested and sentenced to prison, where he wrote Mein Kampf, a manifesto of hate, nationalism, and delusions of grandeur. Think of it as the worst self-help book ever written. After his release, Hitler rebuilt the Nazi Party with ruthless efficiency. He exploited Germany's economic despair, promising jobs, pride, and revenge. His speeches were angry TED Talks with goose-stepping. By the early 1930s, Germany wasn't just broke, it was existentially bankrupt. The Great Depression had hit like a wrecking ball. Unemployment soared, savings vanished, and people were trading their dignity for loaves of bread. The Weimar Republic, Germany's fragile democracy, was flailing like a fish out of water. Enter Adolf Hitler, a man with a loud voice, a short mustache, and a terrifyingly long list of grievances. In January 1933, Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany. Not elected president, not crowned emperor, just Chancellor. But give a man with a messiah complex a microphone and a bureaucracy, and he'll turn democracy into a dictatorship faster than you can say Reichstag fire. And that's exactly what happened. After a suspicious fire at the Reichstag, Germany's parliament, Hitler blamed communists, declared a state of emergency, and passed the Enabling Act, which basically said, let's skip the whole voting thing. Political opponents? Arrested. Newspapers? Censored. Dissenters? Silenced. The Nazi Party didn't just take power, they consumed it. Hitler's ideology was built on the myth of Aryan superiority, a pseudo-scientific fever dream that claimed blonde-haired, blue-eyed Germans were nature's VIPs. Everyone else? Not so much. Jews, Romani people, disabled individuals, LGBTQ+ citizens, and political opponents were labeled undesirable. The Nuremberg laws stripped Jewish people of citizenship, banned intermarriage, and turned discrimination into official policy. It wasn't just racism, it was bureaucratic racism. Hitler wasn't content with just Germany. He wanted Lebensraum, living space, for his Aryan utopia. So in 1939 he invaded Poland, triggering World War II. Britain and France declared war, and suddenly Europe was on fire. Blitzkrieg, lightning war tactics allowed Germany to steamroll through countries like a militarized bulldozer. France fell. The Low Countries fell. Hitler was riding high. Then came the big mistake, Operation Barbarossa. In 1941, Hitler invaded the Soviet Union, thinking it would be a quick victory. Spoiler alert, it was not. The Russian winter laughed in German faces. Supply lines froze. Soldiers froze. The Red Army didn't just resist, they counterattacked. By 1943, the tide of war was turning. Hitler's forces were stretched thin, morale was crumbling, and the Allies were gaining ground. While the war raged, Hitler orchestrated one of history's most horrific genocides. The Holocaust wasn't just mass murder, it was systematic annihilation. 6 million Jewish people were killed, along with millions of Romani, disabled individuals, LGBTQ+ citizens, and political prisoners. Concentration camps like Auschwitz became factories of death. It was industrialized cruelty, and it left a scar on humanity that will never fade. By April 1945, Berlin was surrounded. The Allies were closing in from the west, the Soviets from the east. Hitler retreated to his underground bunker like a villain in a Bond film, minus the charisma. On April 30th, 1945, with Soviet troops entering the city, Hitler took his own life. His dream of a 1,000-year Reich lasted 12 years. His legacy? A cautionary tale carved into the annals of history. Hitler's rise wasn't just about one man. It was about fear, desperation, and the seductive power of hate. He manipulated a broken nation, weaponized propaganda, and built a regime on lies and violence. Today, he stands not as a hero, not even as a villain with nuance, but as a symbol of what happens when humanity loses its way. So, dear friends, let history be our teacher. Let tolerance be our compass. And let love, not fear, guide our future. Yes, Hitler's iconic mustache is called the toothbrush mustache. It was once fashionable, even Charlie Chaplin wore it, but Hitler ruined it forever. It's the only facial hairstyle banned by history itself.